that the patient has this tumor response. So you can see the one patient has a number 7 has like a 4 years clinical response, and then on the right panel, the red color is for like the like antigen-specific T cells. They use this technology to identify the T cells. You can see one thing I want to point out is like they want to make a relationship compare analysis to see whether those patients who respond also have higher antigen-specific T cells. So in most cases, you can see that when patient respond PR, they can see the number of antigen-specific T cells is pretty high, but there's some exception. For example, this patient has like a partial response for 8 months. You can see the number of antigen-specific T cells is very low. All right. So and then in the other case, some case patient have no clinical response at all, but their T cell antigen-specific T cells is very high. So so the conclusion from the slide is overall, you can have this as a biomarker to predict whether the patient has a clinical response or not. But sometimes that biomarker is not specific, right? You have sometimes you have you have a false negative, sometimes you have a false positive. So the overall clinical response rate in this case is 50%. Just this slide show you there one patient with exceptional response. You can see patient number 7 after it's like 4 years because it's a lung. The red lung, you can see the before treatment, you can see the big lesion. After 9 months treatment, you can see the lesion pretty much gone. After 4 years, you can see the you can barely see the lesion, right? So it's another lesion in pelvis. All right, so this is the overall and the prevention-free like a statistic analysis. You can see there basically you can see after this is an old study, right? It's like a year. Then it started study from the year 2008 or 9. You can see after this like 4 or 5 years, you can see there is about 15% of the patients still alive, and also you can see there these are prevention-free. So what this number tell you is like basically if you go back to the literature to see for this kind of patient, how long can they survive? Basically the number is like only like 4%. So over here they have like 15%. So although this is the phase 1 study, right? It's not to make like a conclusive analysis. It's like to show you the initial efficacy result. All right, so I think the one thing they want to address is like sometimes the peripheral antigen-specific T cells number may not correspond to the clinical response. So I think the one thing they think about is like the peripheral T cell number may not be good because those T cells may not penetrate into the tumor cells. So in a similar study, it's not from that specific studies, but for that for different studies. But the design is the same. The receptor is pretty much the same. You can see there for the multiple myeloma leukemia patient, you can see if you have a biopsy, right? You can see the finding in the biopsy is probably more predictable. For example, like for this patient, you can see pre-infusion, 24 days after infusion, and then 1 month after, you can see the tumor cell began to decline, and then the antigen-specific T cell began to decline. So you can see it's a very good correlation, right? So the conclusion from this slide is the intra-tumor like a biomarker, in this case like it's T cells. Sometimes it's probably a better predictor for clinical response. Although in this study, the subject are with like leukemias. All right, so where we stand now, so basically you can see it's like early this year, for the same technology I show you in the case study, adaptive immune. You can see the FDA just gave a grant like T cell therapy like breakthrough category. So that means like FDA began to pay attention to this. So say, look, this is a phase 1, phase 2 study. The overall response rate is 50%, And also they have a good biomarker to predict. So it's also the solid tumor. So this is why to me this news is huge. All right. All right. So what? Basically there are several issues. So I think one thing is like in order to get FDA approval, it's like you have to have good biomarkers. For this like cellular immunotherapy, the one clinical issue is like sometimes you have a heterogeneous clinical response. Sometimes you cannot predict. For example, in the Rosenberg study, although they can achieve one good clinical response for that specific study in year 2014, but the overall they have 10 subjects, only one subject respond. So in that case, the response rate is 10%. In the case study I present today, the overall response rate is 50%. It's pretty high. So that's the common issue you can say in these like cellular immunotherapy trials. Sometimes you cannot predict. So for this biomarker, I will say now that people begin to use these three biomarkers. One is like the next sequencing, next generation sequence derived neoantigen prediction to see whether the tumor has a neoantigen. If the tumor has no neoantigen, and then you may not have a good biomarker, except you have at least like a so-called NY-ADSO, like a germline protein, and also now people have like a so-called titular fusion protein to predict whether the patient blood or tumors has like a tumor antigen specific T cells. All right, and also in a slide I show you in the multiple melanomas, you can see the people begin to think that there are intratumor data, for example, like the number of the T cells in the tissue in the tumor may be very useful sometimes in predicting a clinical response. And also, I think another big hurdle for this category of the therapy is like the cost. Think about that. Antibody already very expensive, and then for these cells, cell therapies, it's like just like the cost. Like what I heard is like 0.3 million per case. So that's higher than the PD-1 therapy. So all of these issues, it's like what the sponsor, the pharmaceutical company have to face. All right. So hopefully, after this breakthrough, designation, hopefully, these clinical trial can get the first FDA approval in solid tumors. All right, at the end, I'd like to thank HMFC, CSA, and also Dana-Farber for because without those two, the support from both CSA and Dana-Farber, I cannot have this kind of knowledge. And also, yes, that all the talk I gave today is like basically is in the public domain. All right. So now I can continue.
Hi. Thank you very much. Wonderful talk. And one comment I like to make, from my experience in the industry. When I run the GSK, the GlaxoSmithKline, the Pfizer program, I figure out why we, as we talk about, why we don't get there. I divided the whole, program into three parts: the science part, the clinical part, and the logistic part. Personally, we get the best scientists. We get a near perfect, proof of principle. And then we also had a wonderful team of MD, PhD. They are trained here as a medical doctor, and they run the clinical trial. But for instance, a very simple case, patient recruitment would be very rate limiting step. It takes 18 months, to recruit, just get the people come to you, and you get the study. So how do we, get it there? Not because we don't understand, the clinical science and how to run a clinical trial, but my impression is that two things: we don't understand the biology. We thought we understand the biology, but actually don't understand the exact MOA, the molecular mechanism. Number two, even you get the cash, you get money, but people, they seldom do one thing in the clinical trial. We don't talk about it by our professor at the end of publish, the feasibility assessment. We need to assess, how feasible this clinical trial can carry out in the United States or even over the rest of the world.
Well, that's the reality we face. It's like this clinical trial is a long process, right? It's involve multiple stakeholders, multiple players. I will say I've been working in this field for years. I know that just like the thing we get screwed up, in any time point. It's like it's sometimes good science, but the follow up, like the clinical operation part, we get screwed. I would say, but still, you can say began to this whole field is like immunotherapy began to pick up. It's like you began to say that because it's a new category treatment, entity, right? So majority, you can say it's just one single agent, right? And then think about the combination between if you use ACT plus APP1, you began to say something like you can predict, right? You can combine these two, particularly if one has a very low adverse event, and then you are able to combine these two. I can give you another example. I think 1 month ago there's Harvard has a kind of study. It's not about it's like a bone marrow transplantation for after a patient for patient who has leukemia. It's like for CAL. For CAL, and basically the bone marrow is from another person, right? And then they use a suppressor to shut down the immune response and then so the patient will relapse. And then so I think and then people began to think about it's like the reason the patient relapsed because of the tumor cell come back, right? So and then so they began to use a CTLA-4 antibody to see whether that antibody can activate, can enrich, can somehow activate their endogenous T cells which can recognize the tumor cells. Now they just published that report in AGM. So that is like the typical, the old classical therapy like bone marrow transplantation plus these checkpoint inhibitors. They began to say something that they cannot imagine before. All right. So I will say to me, I'm at least a little bit I'm optimistic for patient recruitment. I talked to many delegation from China. I said China has a patient population, right? So if you follow the standard we have at Harvard, it's like I can tell you how to follow the standard, and then you have patient, and then we can do something big. And afterwards, if you can achieve that goal, and then so Harvard is going to reach out to you. Not you don't come here. Right? Harvard is going to send delegation to China to talk to about these kind of issues. So I think now we need people who can communicate, right? Who can pull everybody, each stakeholder together, to improve the efficacy, to make this process, as smooth as possible. Any other?
So I wonder, very nice talk. Thank you. I wonder if you could comment what it is the roadmap of the current PD-1 therapy of the CAR-T therapy. And my second question is, so far there could be the combination of the immunotherapy and combined with chemotherapy.
Right.
And I think most recently there's some paper talking
before I comment on this first question, the second question is like if you see that a lot of cell deaths, that may not
Yeah,
be.
the combination of immunotherapy and
Like chemo, right?
chemotherapy.
Okay, your point is like, is that good thing to know or is bad thing? Is bad predicted biomarker?
So, to me, I feel the combination may be more efficient, but so far some studies showing may not be a good.
Well, it's like for first question, like bottleneck for PD-1 and other. I will say, the one thing I'm concerned is like the duration of the response is not the, what the media try to, try to show. It's like you have like 1 year, like 8 months response, or like duration. That's not something you want. It's like I will say, if the duration can reach like 3 years, 2 years, and then you have a story. Now you have 1 year, for this for majority of the clinical studies. To me, that's a concern. Obviously you can say, well, we can apply the PD-1 CTLA-4 to the early stage, like first line. That is what happened, last month. When BMS applied their CTLA-4 to their first line, melanoma patient, we can see like a pretty good, like 80% response rate. So to me, I will say the only bottleneck is their treatment per se. If the immunotherapy can only reach this far, and then you cannot go beyond that, right? Unless you take like a combination approach. So and then let's switch to the second question. It's combination. I will say I also pay attention to that. I think the very bad example, a very sad story for the company is like people try to use like remember like lung cancer has like a Chinese lung cancer patient like 40-50% has like a EGFR mutation positive, right? And then the AstraZeneca try to use like a third generation like a EGFR inhibitor combined with their own PD-L1 antibody. Their adverse event like pneumonitis, the rate is 38%. So that to me that's alarming. It's alarming. So this like when you combine these two modalities like either target therapy or chemo plus this like PD-1, this like immunotherapy. If you don't have a very solid mechanism, and sometimes the outcome is just like not predictable. So to me, I will say if you have a good mechanism, and then I will say I'm optimistic because I can give you an example. For like a patient has ovarian cancer, right? They have like some patient has like BRCA1, BRCA2 mutation, right? So you can see there's like a big news last month. The local company, I think Tessera, right? They have like a good PARP inhibitor. So their progression-free time is 18 months. It's much better than the one from AstraZeneca. So for that kind of like a target therapy, those tumor has a lot of new antigen, right? You this single agent you can have like 18 months, progression free, and then you combine that target therapy with this PD-L1. So I will say it's I can predict the response or the duration is pretty big. So you have to use like a right mechanism. So it's not simply this chemotherapy can kill the cell and release antigen. That's not always the case. That to me is not probably not the right well, you can try that, but to me it's not not good enough.
Well, I think you need to think out of the box because when we so obsessive with this immunotherapy, so every day you think about PD-1, PD-L1, CTLA-4. Actually, I have a very good, learning from your team, support. You were not there, we were at the radiation oncology meetings, at the Joseph Martin building. And one thing I really appreciate is that, for combination therapy, think about the PD-1 and a PARP1 inhibitor. You're in the center of the DNA repair. And Super is one of the experts in this area. And know one thing about before, why we combine immune A plus immune B. Nothing about out of the box and then let's do something, very scientific breakthrough. Combine a DNA repair system ligand with a immune ligand. The reason is that they recently find there is a wonderful relationship between the DNA repair system and the inflammation. So I think it would be interesting, very promising to go along this direction, do something different.
Yeah, that's the thing. When I talked to her, it's like she said, what's the right combination, right? It's like gene damage. It's like deficiency is a hallmark of cancer, right? So
But
you have
you
gene
also
damage.
need to think about, all the biological systems under the sun, they have limitations. For instance, like when people talk about CAR T, well, CAR T is very promising. Everybody read CAR T, everybody, do something about CAR T, but to my, clinical background, CAR T right now only limited to CLL treatment, period.
That's true. But that's why
Actually, we
I
at Dana-Farber, we try to recruit the guy from UPenn, the child, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He's a chairman there, and then here we have Aaron Sharp and the neurology team and our common friend Gordon Freeman. But the thing is that it's very complicated, very expensive to set up a CAR T lab in the Glenwood area, and then the industry, they might not welcome the CAR T. The reason is that we like simple small molecule. Why we moved into biologic? Because it's more specific, so we pay twice as much the synthetic manufacturing.
Yeah, the cost definitely is an issue. Even for small chemicals, now it's also you have to you have to it's also you have to pay attention to the sort of personalized medicine, because each cancer has different mutation, like the lung, like the EGFR, right? So we began to see the difference 12 years ago at Harvard, right, year 2004. Now it's to me, I'm very lucky. I have a immunotherapy background, right? And also I did a PhD at cancer biology, target validation for 5 years. So I can think about these two things, immunotherapy and biology, target therapy together. We don't talk about another member, right? So I can use my brain to have a short loop to think about that. I will say yes. This is why Phil Slade said that for one tube of blood, you can collect as much information as you can. You can have a new antigen, you can have a mutation, you can predict, without getting obtaining a biopsy. Right? You get as much information as possible from the tumors. At the same time, you collect the lymphocyte from one single tube of blood, and then you have this all fancy platform. You can have a molecular engineering, molecular biology. You can have the final product is the new antigen, and then you have good lymphocyte. You have molecular biology. You have a DNA, fragment. So you can engineer the cells, and then so this whole process just combine everything, At the same time, the information you collect from the one blood of tumors can also be applied to the target therapy. For example, you have a BRCA1 mutation, right, from one patient, and then you can combine these cellular therapies plus PARP1, the PARP inhibitors. So I think it's all kind of possibilities. So I will say that to me, it's I'm quite optimistic. Although you need a lot of money, right, to cover each case. Okay? So.
Well, we should recruit you to our industry.
It's how they say. I offer a lot of opinion in a lot of WeChat groups because I happen to know, probably a little bit superficial, but I happen to witness this all kind of process. For example, when Heng Yang, the founder of the Hada, returned from Harvard to Xiehe first, and then go to Chinese Academy of Science. His first lab in Xiehe. I happened to participate in his first training, for 1 month. So at that time, it's I began to pay attention to the 100 genomic project. He finished 1%, right? Focused on the chromosome 5 short arm for the cat and the client signal, right? So I began to pay attention to that. See that now it's like everything is come together. Program, the blueprint, the genomic the sequence, and then the new antigen, in the target therapy, the thermochemical, and then immunotherapy, everything come together. Now we have all kind of tool technology to move that forward.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, we can talk after today's seminar. I think DC has my contact information. You want to further talk? To me, I try to make connection between Harvard and China, because Harvard definitely is like a major player in this field, right? It's like although PD-1 is not clinical breakthrough, not over here, so Johns Hopkins, but Steve Hardy is like a major player in CTLA-4, right? Prototype of checkpoint inhibitors. So I think Harvard has a golden treatment. It's like we have all kind of people, like technologies, and also very solid clinical trial platform. So I would say I happen to be involved in this operation process. I know what's the right thing to do, what's the right center. So I try to bring this, try to interface the knowledge to the counterpart in China, to say try to build a bridge, so that as I said earlier, if you can combine the knowledge to the Chinese patient population, and that will probably make a difference. So make like a patient benefit.
So much. Let's give another round of applause.
Thank you very much.